Live, this is Heart of Illinois ABC News at 5:30. Local, social.
The Trump administration is now planning to release more COVID vaccines to states immediately, as opposed to holding some of them back to make sure there's supply for people's second dose. Thank you for joining us this half hour. I'm Bobby Oler.
And I'm Janice Repholz. Now, this is something President-elect Joe Biden has said that he would do when he takes office next week. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker and other governors have asked the feds to do this to increase supply.
Today, Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar also urged states to open up vaccinations to anyone 65 or older. Illinois will do that in Phase 1B.
States should move on to pharmacies, community health centers, and mass vaccination sites as desired or needed.
He says the federal government will distribute their supply of vaccines to states based on the pace of their rollout and the amount of people aged 65 and older in that state.
And the Illinois Department of Public Health website now has a page where you can track the vaccine rollout county by county, and it shows how far we still have to go. The website says that the state has administered more than 350,000 vaccine doses, but only 72,000 people have gotten both. That's about 0.5% of Illinois' population. Peoria has given out 6,200 shots, and less than 1,000 people have gotten both to become fully vaccinated. So the county is on pace with the state at about 0.5% of the population getting both doses so far. But McLean County is lagging farther behind. Only 124 people have gotten both doses in that county. It's less than 0.1% of the population.
An IDPH director, Dr. Ngozi Ezike, receiving her first dose of Pfizer COVID vaccine today in Cook County. She's urging others to get vaccinated when they are eligible. She says she's taking this shot in honor of first responders and her family. In May, Ezike's husband collapsed in their home and fought a tough battle with COVID-19 under pre-existing conditions. She says the vaccine finally allows Illinoisans to put the, quote, nightmare behind them.
My getting vaccinated gets me one step closer to children being able to be safely educated in school without intense fears about contracting the virus. Gets us closer to be able to share love with real embraces and not all these virtual air hugs.
The state death toll is over 17,000 since the start of the pandemic.
The OSF Healthcare COVID hotline is still very busy this month. They tell us hundreds, sometimes thousands of calls are coming into the center each day, depending on the positivity rate in the area. The most asked questions have changed as the pandemic has gone on, from general information about the virus to vaccines. Right now, people are calling the hotline asking for help at home, getting resources delivered to keep emergency rooms available.
Our doctor's offices close, our clinics, our urgent care clinics close. And so a lot of times the only resource that someone may have after hours would be to actually visit an emergency room. And that's usually not an ideal situation for somebody who is just, nervous or having mild symptoms.
You don't need insurance or to be an OSF patient to call this number. It's 833-OSF-NO or 833-673-5669. Chief Meteorologist Brian Walter, it was nice to see the sun again today.
It was. We finally did it after almost 2 weeks of cloud cover to start the new year. We got a lot of sunshine today and some seasonally warm weather. Satellite radar right now is showing the clear skies continuing for the most part. We're keeping an eye on the cloud cover that's off to our northwest there in Iowa and parts of Wisconsin, Minnesota. That could spill in here as we head into tonight and into tomorrow, but all things considered, our weather staying quiet. 39 right now, Peoria, clear skies. Those winds out the southwest. Another reason today was a little bit warmer than the last couple of days. And a look there at Uptown Circle, normal, Bloomington normal. Your temperature right now right at the freezing mark at 32. We'll probably fall close to 30 by the time we're waking up tomorrow morning. Could see some fog developing, and we have some more snow to talk about though in the forecast. We'll details on that in a few minutes.
State lawmakers in Springfield, they're going to have a late night tonight as their lame duck session comes to an end. One of the bills expected up for vote could bring major changes to policing in Illinois. But local sheriffs here in the heart of Illinois tell Andy Weber the bill will hurt police and not help anybody else. Andy joins us live with more of their reaction. Andy.
Janice, the message from sheriffs here in central Illinois, lawmakers need to slow down. Now, while sheriffs say they support reform, they want to see reform, the reform contained in this bill has been rushed. However, lawmakers say that reform and the change needs to happen now. Members of the Illinois Black Caucus say their intentions are clear.
To end the systemic racism that has plagued our community for far too long.
Lawmakers hope to achieve that goal by passing House Bill 163, a 600-plus page document that calls for several changes to the state's criminal justice system. Those changes include eliminating cash bail, mandating a statewide use of force policy, mandating crisis intervention training, and eliminating qualified immunity. That last one, qualified immunity, is something Tazewell County Sheriff Jeff Lauer says ensures officers are able to do their jobs.
Qualified immunity protects you if you're following the law, you're following the policies of your department, and you're following the Constitution. That's the only time that it protects us.
Advocates for the bill disagree, saying policies like that have instead enabled some officers to abuse their power. Both Lauer and Sheriff Brian Asbell in Peoria County say there are proposals within the bill they support, like more transparency when it comes to officer records or establishing statewide policies for use of force. Asbell says other changes can be made too, as long as law enforcement is part of the conversation.
You're not going to change a culture through legislation. And that's truly what they're trying to do, is change this police culture. But that's where you need to have a slower approach.
Supporters like Cook County Board President Tony Preckwinkle disagree.
We believe that the authority to mandate implementation should not be dependent on the will of the police department, but rather certain reforms should be codified at the state.
This bill is expected to be voted on within the next few hours tonight. Sheriff Lauer says if the bill does pass, he expects officers around the state and here in his own department to either quit or retire as soon as possible. Reporting live in Tazewell County, I'm Andy Weber, Heart of Illinois, ABC. Bobby, Janice, back to you.
And sticking with news at the Capitol, the Illinois House started their final day of that lame duck session with several representatives addressing the attack on the U.S. Capitol last week.
Capitol Bureau Chief Mike Militich is live in Springfield tonight with their message. Mike?
Bobby and Janice, good evening. Members were visibly emotional this morning as they denounced the attack on the U.S. Capitol and Congresswoman Mary Miller's statements as she referenced Adolf Hitler during a rally. Now, of course, some emotional statements came out from Representative Bob Morgan, speaking on behalf of the entire Jewish caucus, saying he's furious to see Representative Miller using Hitler's words before an attack on one of the country's most important buildings. Representative Tim Butler also spoke about these attacks as someone who worked 20 years in the Capitol building with many friends inside. He said something is wrong with the country when citizens attack their own Capitol.
Words really matter, folks. Words really matter. And if you're not stepping up and denouncing this, no matter where you fall on the political spectrum, I don't have a place for you.
Butler says he appreciated the U.S. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy denounce President Trump's comments today. However, more lawmakers need to step up. Both members know this is a dangerous time in the country with reports of armed gatherings starting this weekend at every state capitol building. Meanwhile, Butler says lawmakers can have their agreements on legislation, but they all come together once they're done with the debate. He says residents should see that message as well. For now, reporting live in Springfield, Mike Militich, Heart of Illinois, ABC.
And we have Thank you, Mike. From the state capitol to the nation's capital, this is live look right now at the House floor where lawmakers are debating a resolution that would ask Vice President Pence to invoke the 25th Amendment. There's nothing binding about this resolution. It wouldn't force anything. However, they have said that if it is not successful, that they will bring up an article of impeachment tomorrow. And just a few minutes ago, Adam Kinzinger of Illinois became the third Republican today to say that he would vote for President Trump's impeachment.
Meanwhile, the U.S. Capitol is under tight security as those conversations continue, with House Democrats, those three Republicans, forging ahead with plans to impeach President Trump. This would be for a second time.
Now, that vote on that impeachment would be tomorrow. Tonight, House Republican Conference Chair Liz Cheney, Republican Representative John Katko of New York, and Kinzinger all saying that they will at least come out and vote in support of it. This comes as the FBI warns that armed protests are planned in Washington and all 50 state capitals ahead of Joe Biden's inauguration a week from tomorrow. Meanwhile, a massive manhunt continuing across the country to track down the people that breached the Capitol last week. President Trump visited a section of his border wall in Texas today, still says he is not responsible.
It's been analyzed, and people thought that what I said was totally appropriate.
The president called impeachment proceedings a hoax and a witch hunt, saying it is causing danger for the country.
A family is suing a local nursing home after the death of their loved one.
Up next, why they say they could have been saved.
And finally, we got some sunshine today. It may stick around for a day or two, but get ready, some colder weather and some snowfall back in the forecast. We're going to time it out up next.